Previously on the Seventh Valkyrie, Meridia finds herself stonewalled yet again as she strives to serve her country. A meeting with Jossun in the gardens awaits, but the imperious High Commander of Rene may have a plan of his own. Find out more next on the Seventh Valkyrie. The High Gardens were reserved for the coming together of military and civilian interests, intended to represent a more peaceful and welcoming side to the Edoran military. Their goal, after all, was the peace and safety of the Edoran people, and it was nice to remind civilians of that every once in a while. As Meridia entered the gardens, it seemed that peace and love had actually reigned throughout most of the day. Several new city business owners and Mandarians still lingered on the way towards carriages and other transport, talking with the boisterous volumes of those who had a bit too much to drink. The fleet of attendants and recruits that hustled back and forth cleaning up the long tables, used dishes and partially full barrels of liquor, only confirmed Meridia's suspicions, and pissed her off more. This was no time for a party. Closing her eyes, Meridia reminded herself that she was a warrior, not a diplomat, and didn't know how such protocols went. After a few more moments to collect herself, Meridia strode out into the garden. With a nod and a gesturing arm from an attendant, she made her way to the seaward wall, where Jossun stood, pristinely shaven head and unmistakable white mustache striking a clear outline against the falling sun. Taking another step, she took a knee. "Protector Meridia Barrow's daughter reporting for your instructions, sir," she said, bowing her head. "As ranking Light Corps officer on base, it is my official duty to take involvement in any and all matters relating to Edoran security, specifically when threat levels are Bravo or higher. My wits, my blade, and my life are yours to command. Etern Prote Loreshka." "How much have you practiced that little speech, girl?" Jossun said, looking over his shoulder. His tone was loose, not slurred, but it was clear that he had been drinking. She did not rise from her knee, and he turned around. "I asked you a question," Jossun said. His breath smelled like whiskey. "I did not have time to be practicing speeches, sir," Meridia responded evenly. "I was too busy assisting in preparations for our city's elevation to threat level Bravo, and ensuring that I could execute your orders as best as I could." "So at least you have some purpose in this town," Jossun responded. "Sir, if I may speak freely," Meridia asked. Jossun smirked and nodded. "Why else do you think that I brought you out to the gardens, where there will be no listeners to bother with pesky protocols?" "Ah, okay. Sir, then why in the hell have you ignored me all day? Our nation has been attacked, our threat is at a higher level than at almost any time since the war, and now the river is blocked? I am sure you have a plan, sir, and though I know you don't believe in me, I am the highest-ranked combat troop on your base. Make use of me, test me for all I care, but I am here for this nation. I give my life to this cause. Please, sir, find a use for my skills." "Perhaps you and your striking white coat might have some use yet. If for no other reason than to fool those into thinking that the rest of the Light Corps is as underwhelming as you are." Meridia gritted her teeth, but covered her frustration with a bowed head. "I will do whatever is needed for our mission. Please, direct me, Commander." Jossun took a moment to lean out against the wall, looking across the harbor to where the old city peeked around across the river. The throngs of boats and vessels in the bay had grown considerably since Meridia had seen them this morning. Edoran patrols still monitored the cove, and now a good third of them crowded around the barges, a buffer that only broke to allow Edoran ships through, one by one. Out in the bay, Edoran vessels entering Rene were directed over to the port, while any larger Freelander ships and trading barges remained in the bay, either anchoring or orbiting their side of the cove. Meridia could see a few of them dispatching smaller vessels that could make it to shore, seeking guidance from the leaders in the old city.
Look at them. Do you know how much of the old city's trade passes through New City waters? Onto New City ships, even. All of it, for what I care. Those savage thwarps have been using our own infrastructure to spread their poison, using our lifeblood to feed themselves, dirtying our nation, gnawing at the foundation upon which we have struggled so hard to build a new order.
He spat over the edge of the wall.
We have gotten far too comfortable with the idea of thwarps living happily at our door. Far too comfortable watching them breed and multiply and infest the land with every passing year, Jossun said. The attacks are merely a symptom of that disease, one that we are already in the process of curing. You want to know the plan? Simple. We seal the Mandarian and inspect every single ship so that no old city contraband can get through. We patrol the waters so that no fisherman, no enterprising farmer, no clever salesman thinks we will stand for communing with those dangerous animals anymore. And when the thwarp fuckers in the capital, who are too afraid or too in love with those animals and their visions of peace to see reality, when we bend them to our will and get them to give us approval, we will finish the job that the Iron Wolf started, wiping those animals off the face of the map.
He searched her face at the declaration, then turned back to the river.
We will starve them, run them dry, cut them off from the world, and when the bridge returns, or when the soldiers I've requested continue to arrive, either way, we will end the old city.
Meridia paused, but when she spoke again, she had hardened herself. She could not bring herself to condone genocide, but if it got her the chance to hunt the Machine King, the real threat, she would say anything Jossun wanted. I am here to serve you and to serve this nation, Meridia said with a fist across her chest. Point me where you need me, and I will be your weapon. Jossun smirked and leaned back against the wall.
Well, I'm not sure if being a weapon is exactly what I'll be needing from you.
The small amount of momentum that Meridia thought she'd gotten had come to a grinding halt. Sir, she asked, but you gave me specific orders to remain separate from the common elements of the war effort. I was told I'd be in charge of a special mission under your directive.
Oh, you will be. We'll need extra manpower on the docks to help check all of the manifests, inspect all of the ships coming through, make sure that no one feels that they're not under the watchful eye of Edera. That, I believe, will do perfectly for you.
That's it. Your special task for me is to man the docks checking cargo? That's work for the clerks, not the Light Corps.
Oh, believe me, girl. This is something that only you can accomplish. It's something particularly suited to your skill set, and I don't believe that anyone in the Light Corps, nay, maybe anybody in the entire military, would be so qualified for this job as yourself.
Meridia was silent, and he snickered as he began to walk away from the edge of the gardens. He stopped as he passed her.
Feel free to report sometime a few hours after dawn each day, he said, almost gleeful. I wouldn't want it to interfere with your pointless circuits of the city.
In all, it was just about the worst thing he could do to her, the most comprehensive way that he could demote her, demean her, and get her out of the way. Well, without approval from High Command or directly violating protocol. It was an open insult, an open attack on her, and she knew it, and he did too. He began to walk past her, but as he did, she stood in a smooth movement, setting her shoulders with fierce determination. "What time would you like me to report each day, sir?" Meridia said, eyes locked on the horizon to avoid his, otherwise she might have knocked him out. "Specifically, what time? And when should I depart?" Jossun stopped walking. "If all tasks on the waterfront are complete and overseen between harbor open at dawn and harbor close at nightfall, would you classify that as sufficient work, sir?" she asked, turning back to him. Jossun squinted at her.
"What are you playing at? I made clear your responsibilities. You can report to the harbor master for further instruction."
"Of course, sir," she said, "and I will make absolutely sure that I serve those vital responsibilities with the full weight entrusted in me by the colors I wear on my breast." She thumped her chest and looked forward. She was tall enough to look even a commander like Jossun in the eye, and it would do no harm to remind him of the difference in combat prowess between them. "And, sir, I would like permission to take on additional work."
"What?"
he asked, raising an eyebrow.
"More work at the harbor? Believe me when I say you will have enough."
"Not at the harbor, sir," she said, staring him down. "I would like to offer my help, unpaid, with no extra budget or resources required, in the pursuit of the Machine King, or anyone who would claim his name as a cover against anti-Edoran attacks." Jossun's eyes flared, but before he could say anything, Meridia continued. "I believe that you are totally right, sir," she said, and pointed to the old city. "The threat that waits at our door requires sacrifice, it requires harsh decisions, and it requires acknowledging that the true danger to Edera lies in each and every weaponized thwarp living across our waters and inside our borders. The Machine King is an idea, certainly, but to them he is a powerful one that has the potential to unite any of our enemies. That's why I've already drawn up an extensive plan to flush out any hint of anti-Edoran influence from our region, and then use the savages' vicious nature to turn them against one another." Jossun opened his mouth and closed it. Sensing her opening, Meridia dropped once more to her knee. "I said it before and I will say it again. I know that you don't trust in me," she said. "I am young. I am a woman, and you have no proof that I have done whatever it takes to earn this cloak." She looked up at him. "But I will tell you this. I am the best damn soldier that you have on this base, and I will prove it to you one way or another. At best, you find yourself a loyal ally who you can trust. At worst, all that you lose with this is a foolish girl playing Lightcore, and the misfits she picked for her team. A fair deal, is it right, sir?" Jossun's confused expression turned into a grin, and then into a wide-open, full-bodied laugh, so much so that the stink of whiskey washed down on her. But laughing was fine. Standing up, she offered her hand. "Let me help you, sir," she said. "I won't let you down." Jossun looked her up and down, and then spat right in her face. In the moment of shock as Meridia processed the insult, Jossun closed the gap between them and began ranting directly into her face. It was nothing that she hadn't heard before, that she was weak, worthless, that she made him sick, that she was a joke for entering the force and an even bigger joke for being allowed the white cloak. All recycled old insults, but Jossun had been tipped to boiling, and he was one of the few men who she was not allowed to lay a hand on, no matter what he said. His hate for her rained down in a mist of whiskey-scented spittle as he pushed her back towards the wall, strengthened by Meridia's stunned silence. Meridia stepped back again, finally against the wall, and she had no more space left to maneuver away, leaving Jossun free rein to step even closer and grab her by the face with one hand. For a moment, she marveled at how a soldier's hand could be so weak, so flimsy, and yet still somehow carry so much power. He continued his tirade.
You are nothing more than a freak, he growled. A weakling and abomination, a dishonor to your gender and a bucking of the natural order that I put only a drop of spit above the animals across the river. Let me make entirely clear what I think of you and your foolish, hysterical mission. If I had the power, I would throw you in the brig in the darkest, most unsupervised cell that I could find, and leave the door open to any man who fancied the time of day. Maybe a few good months getting raped from dawn to dusk would remind you of your place in this world, which is not in my military. No, but since some fool gave you the white, I have to pretend to play nice. Oh, you can tell anyone you want about what I've said here today. Some people may even believe you, but you have no proof and you will do nothing to me. This I already know. I've already requested a replacement, and you had better hope it comes through quickly, because if not, I will work you at the docks until your fingers bleed, and you dread the day you ever thought you could play soldier.
Before she was even sure what she was doing, Meridia had gripped the commander by the collar and lifted him halfway off the ground, eyes burning as she met Jossun's.
Such a weak, small old man,
Meridia said.
I wonder what would happen if you actually honorably stepped against me, rather than drunkenly spitting in my face while I try to help you. I wonder what would happen if you set your best men against me. Then we could see exactly how much of a joke I am. I told you you'll do nothing,
Jossun said, slapping Meridia's hands away from him. She kept her grip on him for just a second longer than she had to, reminding him that she was in control here, at least physically. But then she let him go. The gesture wasn't lost on Jossun, who went from boiling to apoplectic.
You think that because you're a big freak, I'm afraid of you. You would do nothing your type never does. If it was me, I would have already tossed you over the edges of the garden after receiving this kind of disrespect. And yet you sit and take it. All that women are good for, I guess. And you can't even help like that. After all, I wouldn't let your diseased mouth within an inch of my asshole, much less my cock.
Dusting off his jacket, he turned away from Meridia and kept speaking.
And just in case you're thinking about disobeying me, I know where you go in the evenings. And while I may not be able to strike at you directly, or change your assignment with me, I can surely hit you where your soft little heart is weakest.
Meridia stepped forward again, heart pounding in rage, but Jossun cut her off.
If you take another step forward, if you take another step out of line at all, I'll make sure that that woman's little bar is burned to ashes. And while it's burning, I'll make sure she's used and beaten and used again until she is thrown to the fucking dogs. No, it will be a tragedy. Such a shame. I may even speak at her funeral. But I guarantee you, Meridia, you scum, if you cross me, it will happen all the same.
Meridia stayed frozen in place. And with that, Jossun shook his head and began to walk away.
Clean the spit off of your face, bitch, he said. And stay out of the way of my job protecting this country.
Want to know what happens next? Join us on Patreon to become a hero of Edera and get early access to episodes along with bonus features, director's commentary, and the full Tab to Archive. You can also find other ways to support us at the links in the description, and we will see you next week.